Good morning everybody, welcome back to the channel. Before I go on talking about the movies that I've been watching this week and been ordering from Amazon and all that sort of thing, just tell you very quickly, I've been checking out some of the, I'm not sure whether you'd call it competition, but other guys that are doing a similar thing that I am. A lot of them seem to be, they seem to have lots of flashy effects. You've got pictures tumbling within pictures, you've got lots of jump cuts. I'm not keen on them at all. It always seems to me like they're performing to some kind of a massive audience, which a lot of them I dare say are, but that really isn't the way that I want mine to look. I'm more in the style of sort of Steve Mack, Ross the Film Critic, Big Paulie to a certain extent, but I'm perfectly happy with the way the actual videos go, as in me just sitting here with a mug of tea talking to you guys. I think that's the way that they should be. I find it a lot more personal to just sit here and chat to you, and you pretty much know that I am talking to all of you. I'm talking to you Jason, you Chris, Caroline, Guy, all the ones that watch the videos. So you'll be relieved to know that I'm going to leave them pretty much as is for the moment anyway. I'm not interested in making videos with eye-popping special effects and all that sort of thing. For one, I haven't got the time, and for two, I don't really like them. A lot of the ones I've been watching this week just give you a bit of a headache, to be honest, with all this stuff going on screen. So you'll be happy to know I'm going to leave them pretty much as they are, just me sitting in a chair chatting to you about movies. So first one I want to do is one that I wrote a review about yesterday on the website. It's a movie that everybody seems to love. For some reason I got the impression before I mentioned it that I was probably one of the few people that had even heard of it. But a lot of people have messaged me when they found out I was going to review it, saying that they couldn't wait to see what it was I thought of it and all this sort of thing. And it's this one, Please Sir. I mean, this is the actual box set of the whole series, but it does include the movie, which is what I'm talking about today. It was made in 1971. It's based on this series, which ran from 1968 to 1972. The movie came along in 1971, and there was another series after the movie came out. And this is the way it used to be in the 70s. If you got a successful sitcom or television series and it was really popular, you would usually turn it into a feature film, and there were quite a few in the 70s. Are You Being Served, Steptoe, Man About the House, On the Buses. That's just to mention a few of them. Till Death Us Do Part. There were loads of them, and I love them all. But Please Sir is a little bit, I think it's slightly different. I think it's slightly better than some of the sort of the On the Buses. It's not quite as in your face with the innuendos as On the Buses and maybe the Carry On films were. For those of you that don't know, it's basically set in a London school, Fen Street, and it's just basically the story of one class every year is allowed to go to a rural retreat, like a countryside camp. 5C, the class that are allowed to go this particular year, are unruly. They're a complete nightmare, and they've got a teacher played by John Alderton, who is always brilliant in pretty much anything he does. Bernard Hedges he plays. He's got a marvellous cast of supporting characters. You've got Doris Ewell, who is the deputy head, an absolute dragon. You've got quite a few others in there. You've got Mr. I think his name's Price, the science teacher, who is just completely cynical and can't see anything good in 5C at all. And you've got Miss Cutforth, played by Patsy Rowlands, who was in many of the Carry On movies. She's carrying a bit of a torch for Bernard. And it is just the story of them going away to this camp and causing absolute chaos for 90 minutes. It's one of the most entertaining, I think, of the TV spin-offs. It's pretty much a standalone one, so that you wouldn't actually need to have seen any of the TV series to have tuned into this and watch it and enjoy it. And it's not one of those that you won't recognise people or you won't know what's happening. Um, the humour, obviously, judged by today's standards, is probably a little bit off colour. Um, but we don't care. We don't care because this is the kind of thing that we used to laugh at in the 70s, and we know that it not necessarily wouldn't fly nowadays. You couldn't make a comedy like this nowadays, not with some of the lines that are in it. Uh, but fortunately or unfortunately, this is what we used to find funny back in the 1970s. So, and I've never yet met anybody who has said to me, absolutely disgusted by the Carry On films and those 70s comedies. They're absolutely awful, sexist, racist, homophobic, and all this. Never once, never once. So who these people are, I do not know. But you'd find very little to be offended by in Please Sir, unless you are really, really looking for it. Um, I would highly recommend it. I first saw it Christmas 1976 on TV, and absolutely loved it. And I've seen it hundreds of times. I hadn't watched it for quite a while when I watched it last week, but it is still as funny as I remember it being. Absolutely love it. So if you are a fan of the British TV comedy spin-offs that sort of haunted the cinemas in the 70s, that is an absolute must-see. It is available on a DVD on its own for about £4 or £5, I think, and it's worth every penny. The other thing I got related to Please Sir, and I saw this on Amazon this week and I couldn't resist it. This is basically the official history of the series and possibly the film. I've not read it yet, so I don't know. But it's written by the guy that played Frankie Abbott. I mean, the running joke on Please Sir, and everybody knew about this, but we didn't pick up on it at the time, well, I certainly didn't, is that the pupils were not really what you would class as pupils. Most of them were in their early 20s. I believe Duffy was about 27 or 28 when he made this. So some of them were nearly as old as the teacher. But it was kind of a running joke. I'm not sure whether it would have worked if they'd have used actual children. I'm not sure it would have worked so well. But yeah, this is one of the running jokes of the whole thing, is that the pupils were way too old for the roles that they were playing, but we never thought anything of it. We loved it. We loved the script. It was sharp. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So that's highly recommended if you get the chance to watch it. Also set myself a challenge a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to keep working through this. Big fan of Doctor Who, but mostly the old Doctor Who. I do enjoy the newer episodes, but not as much as I enjoy the new ones. And I've decided to work my way right the way from the beginning, from the very first episode, and work my way through the whole series. And I started with this box set. This is basically the beginning. It contains the first three stories, which you've got: An Unearthly Child, which was the very first story, followed by the Daleks, which obviously introduced the Daleks to TV, and the third story, The Edge of Destruction. I'm working my way through. Oops, there you go. Working my way through An Unearthly Child at the moment. So I've got one episode left to watch, and then obviously there's the special features which I'll be taking a look at. So I'll review them or talk about them as I've watched them. But I'm quite enjoying this one. I can certainly see why it caught on, let's put it that way. But yeah, that's a challenge I've set myself, is to work my way through the entire Doctor Who series, story by story. So I'll keep you posted on that one. And with a view to that, one of the items I bought this week, somebody recommended this to me, but I didn't think I'd like it, and I'm not sure I'm going to anyway, but I'm going to give it a go. It's an old Doctor Who story called Fury from the Deep. Now, this is one of Patrick Troughton's adventures. I'm not sure whether you realise, but in the 60s, the BBC had a habit of wiping videotapes and films, and it was simply to make room in the vaults for the new stuff. Obviously, they didn't realise at the time that they were going to become such cult stories, programmes, stuff like this, or as popular as they were going to be. They presumably it was just a black and white sci-fi series that they didn't want anymore, so they just wiped a lot of stories off, and now they are finding these stories, or the audio versions of them, and building animations around them. So it's a bit like watching a cartoon, but apparently they are very, very well done. So I'm looking forward to having a look at that one. That's going to be a few weeks away because I've got to work my way through the William Hartnell season first. Other ones I've had through this week, I have been dying to get this on Blu-ray for so many years. Prophecy, 1979 eco horror. It's just a cracking horror film. I saw this again at Burton Odeon, scared the crap out of me at the time. It's one of those sort of nature fights back things. Obviously, the local rivers have been poisoned and things are going wrong within the ecological system, the animals and stuff like that. And this is the result of it. It's a brilliant movie. If you get the chance to watch it, I would highly, highly recommend it. It's a bit grisly, to say the least. The violence is a bit heavy in it, but it is absolutely worth a look. It's really well made, and the Maine, as in the state of Maine in America, woodlands, the forests are going to look awesome in HD. I'm really looking forward to watching that one. Watched one last night. I got this through on Blu-ray, To Sir With Love. I haven't seen it for quite a few years. And I saw this on offer and I thought I'll grab that. Brilliant, brilliant film. Made in 1967, starring Sidney Poitier and a host of British stars. It's just the story of a coloured guy who starts teaching in an East London school. The pupils are a complete and absolute nightmare. This is one of those movies that if you're not keen on older films, I would say watch that one, because I'm willing to make a promise that you'll be hooked within the first, I would say, 15-20 minutes. You'll want to see it through to the end. It's beautifully done. I'm guessing it had some problems with the censors when it first came out, because some of the language is a little bit ripe in it. I know they've screened it on TV fairly recently, and I know for a fact that certain scenes and certain lines of dialogue have been cut. But what you get with this version is obviously the full uncut version. You've also got a wealth of features on this because it's an indicator release. So I'm looking forward to watching the special features on that. So I'll do a review for the website on that in the coming weeks when I've watched all the features. To be honest, I'm just curious to see the interviews with the stars, just to see what they look like now, older, I would guess. But that is highly recommended. I've seen it quite a few times, and the soundtrack's superb and all, so it's just worth a look. This is next week's movie of the week. This is the one I'm going to be writing about, or that I've already written about. I just need to tidy up the review and also do a video on it. Humanoids from the Deep. Finally, the rapey lizards come to Retro Movie Zone. I don't know whether you've ever seen this or not. I'm going to be talking about it next week, but it is one of the absolute best exploitation movies you will ever see. It's difficult to describe. I'm not even going to try now. I need to watch it again, which is going to be sometime during the course of next week, and I will be talking about this one. But this is just amazing. I know Dave's got it, and I know Chris has got it. So Dave, like I said last week, get it watched, because I'm going to be spoiling the hell out of this one next week. And finally, my latest steelbook acquisition. I was telling Dave about this last week. It finally came through. Didn't think it'd turn up until next week. I saw it on offer. Let me just show you. The Wanderers. You can see the light reflecting off it. It's a beautiful thing. There's no embossing on it, as far as I can see. It is just a standard steelbook. But what it was, I wanted to watch The Wanderers again, and I was looking online and found out that there was an uncut version of The Wanderers out there. Now, I didn't realise that they'd cut it, but apparently there was something like 10 minutes cut out of the feature for British audiences. I don't know why. But this reinstates all those missing scenes, all the missing dialogue, So I'm really looking forward to having a look at this. I did have a sneaky peek at it last night, and the quality is superb. It's the best I've ever seen this film looking. It's very similar in style to The Warriors, which is a movie I talked about a few weeks ago, the 1979 Walter Hill film. It is about gang warfare, but this one's set in the 1960s and has the most amazing 1960s soundtrack. So again, I would highly recommend this. It's actually a German import. I didn't realise this when I ordered it. So the menus are in German, but the movie, the extended version, thank God, has got an English language track on it. There's also another version of the film on there that's only 90 minutes. I would love to watch it, but it hasn't got an English track on it. It's only German. But I might just have a look out of curiosity to see which bits are missing out of it. I mean, they've cut something like 35 minutes out of it, out of this extended version, just to get that one. So it shouldn't be difficult to spot the scenes that are missing. But I'll give this a watch at some point shortly, and I'll probably do a review on it because it's the kind of thing I like to write about. And just to show you what's inside it, there are the two discs. You've got the film, obviously Blu-ray, and you've got the two versions of the film. You've got they call it the preview cut, and I don't know why. And the other disc is actually the soundtrack. I didn't realise until I popped it in the DVD player and it popped up, but it's the soundtrack to the movie, so that's going to be good. And obviously that's the back of it. So looking forward to getting into that one. Right, I'm going to leave it at that, folks. I had a bit of a problem last week with the length of the video. 30 minutes is brilliant, don't get me wrong, I love doing them. But I had a hell of a job tagging my wonderful intro onto the beginning of it. It was taking forever, and when it finally did get to the end of it, it rejected it. So I figured if I keep it down to 15 or 20 minutes, I should be all right. So I don't think there's anything else to... I did have a look at the Sparks Brothers last night, very quickly. If you're a fan of Sparks, I've loved them for years. I would highly, highly recommend this. It's directed by Edgar Wright, who also directed a couple of the, I believe it was Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and a couple of other recent comedies. It's a documentary basically charting the rise and fall and rise again and fall again of Sparks. They've had one hell of a career. It's a 2 hour and 20 minute movie, but you don't notice it. It's not a long haul. It is so worth watching. If you get the chance to watch it, I streamed it. It is very, very much worth watching, and I will be purchasing it on Blu-ray when it comes out in late December. It's just a cracking story. It's fascinating all the way through. They do it album by album. On the odd occasion it does seem a little bit drawn out, but it is so worth it if you get the chance to watch it. They've had one hell of a career, and the collaborations they've had, the people they've worked with, especially just recently. Yeah, highly, highly recommend it. That's a definite 10 out of 10. I stuck a little review on Letterboxd last night, and I might stick a little one on the Facebook page in a bit. So, right, that's it, folks. I'm going to leave it at that. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you all again next week with a review of, once again, Humanoids of the Deep. I think I'll call it the movie of the week. That's what I'm going to call it from now on, so we know what we're getting. Have a brilliant week, folks. Thanks for joining me. If you've enjoyed the video, just give me a thumbs up. Any comments you want to drop in, please do feel free. Anything you want to comment on what I've been saying, or ask me any questions, please feel free. I'm always happy to answer questions. So take care, folks, and I will see you all again next week. Thanks for joining me. Bye bye.